Hey guys, welcome back to GeekJ, where we make tech, tutorials, and gaming simpler and better. Today we're supercharging the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered with OptiScaler, FakeNVAPI, and DLSS-to-FSR. Why? Because the game's built-in FSR Frame Generation can cause ghosting, especially if you're below 40 FPS as a base frame rate, and OptiScaler lets us pick any upscaler while keeping Frame Gen and Sharpening enabled. Plus, it works for AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA GPUs. Let's make Cyrodiil smoother than ever, guys. Let's go. So let's start by firing up our game. So if we go into our options and then graphics options, as you can see over here, we have upscaling technique off. Let's go with on. I'm gonna go with native AA and with frame generation on, and I'm going to save these options, apply by pressing F, and then I'm gonna load into my game. And as you can see, the game looks pretty beautiful, but there is some visible ghosting over here. Even when I move the camera, I don't know how well this is gonna translate through the YouTube compression and all that. But for example, when I unsheath and sheath my weapon, you can probably see a lot of the ghosting that's happening. And it's not ideal. And if we want to use a different kind of upscaler, unfortunately, we're gonna lose some of the options. So for example, as we've shown in our initial Oblivion video that you can find over here, up there, I think. I will demonstrate once again over here, go into the graphics options. And as you can see with FSR, we have access to these modes over here, and then we have access to the sharpness and the frame generation. And even though this is FSR 3.1 and above, even on the vanilla game, for some reason the developers, even though they have the option to uncouple it from the FSR upscaler alone, they haven't done that for XeSS, which is the only other upscaler we have access to. So if I go into XeSS, as you can see, we do get the XeSS AA mode, and then we have all the other quality modes of XeSS, but we don't have access to sharpness or frame generation. So if I save this, you can see we are using the XeSS AA option. It looks kind of okay-ish. We've been through this, but obviously we now have around 45 to 50-ish FPS. I'm also recording on pretty high quality with OBS, so obviously my FPS is going to be lower than it should be if I'm not running the OBS recorder, but yeah, it is what it is. So as you can see, we don't have access to sharpness. So for example, if I was to drop the XeSS quality just to gain some more FPS, let's go to the normal ultra quality. We do get above 60 FPS most of the time. We do drop a little bit below 60 at times, like 58, 59, as you can see over there. But the thing is, it kind of turns blurry. We still get a little bit of ghosting as well. But yeah, it kind of looks wonky, and we do not have access to any kind of sharpness, as you can see over here. So yeah, obviously we have screen space reflections off because we would get double reflections and it would create a very weird effect. And since we have ray tracing on and lumen on high quality, it's something that it is not needed. So as you can see, we don't get that extra reflection and ghosting effect we used to get before. But for some reason, Bethesda has decided that even when we enable ray tracing in any of the default presets, like the ray tracing high or whatever preset, then for some reason they do not disable screen space reflection. So it gets kind of weird. But yeah, we do notice the ghosting. It's not ideal, and OptiScaler fixes that and unlocks a ton of other upscaling options. So let's get started. But before we do this, I would strongly suggest you do not skip this step. It's super important. While we are in the game, we go into the graphics menu over here, and we will turn off the upscaling technique. So we need to have the upscaling set to off. So if you skip this step, the game will crash once we install OptiScaler. So trust me, do not skip this step. We need to have the upscaler over here, the upscaling technique, set to off, okay, before we do anything else. Then you should press F to save this setting, just like I'm doing right now, and then we can exit out of the game. So now let's grab our tools. First up is DLSS-to-FSR 3. So let's head to Nexus Mods, because I think all the builds have been moved from GitHub, especially in the future, directly to Nexus Mods, and I will have links in the description below. And we'll download the latest version. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is the main page, DLSS-G to FSR 3, replace NVIDIA DLSS Frame Gen with AMD FSR 3 Frame Gen. Basically, we click on Files, and then we will see a lot of different versions of this. And I would suggest you go with a DLSS to FSR 3 0.130 and not any of the other versions, which is the DLSS Twix edition or Universal edition, especially if you're on an AMD graphics card, just like I am. And we're gonna download as a manual download, and then we're gonna click on slow download. If you're a premium user, you can skip this step. So our download will look something like this. So it's DLSS to FSR 3.0.130, and it has some build numbers and then a .zip file. So let's double click on this one, and we'll be greeted by these little files over here. We need to extract the main DLL file and the disable NVIDIA signature checks and restore NVIDIA signature checks reg files into our main game folder that contains the main exe of the game. So that would be, if you remember from our previous videos, into the Win64 folder. So let's navigate there. So yeah, even with Steam, if you have multiple Steam libraries, then you're probably going to be able to find it real easy, because you just right click and browse local files. Then we're gonna go into the Oblivion Remastered folder over here, then binaries, then Win64. And as you can see, we have everything we need in here for the base tools for modding the game, as you can see on the video up there. And we have already updated the binaries for FSR and XeSS for the game, as well as the DLSS DLL files, which is pretty important, especially if you're going to use OptiScaler, as we're going to be injecting everything through the DLSS DLL files. Just to repeat and make sure we do not make any mistakes, we need the two reg files, and we need the DLSS to FSR 3 AMD is better.dll, and we're going to drag and drop these into our main game folder. We do not need to copy any of the other files for this to work. So exit out of this. So next we need FakeNVAPI. So we're gonna go to its GitHub page, grab the latest release version 1.2.2 as of now, and extract both included files into the same folder as your game's exe file, so in exactly the same location as we did with the DLSS-to-FSR DLL. This helps translate NVIDIA reflex calls to AMD's anti-lag for better latency, especially when we're going to be using frame generation. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, as you can see, we are at the GitHub page of this project. On the right side, we can see the releases. We're going to click on the +11 releases, and we're going to download the FakeNVAPI.7z file. Just like before, we're going to double click on the archive version, but be careful on selecting the version 122, not 121, in case you have an older version downloaded. And as you can see, we have two files in here. We're going to go back to our Win64 file. We're going to grab both of these and drag and drop them into our main Win64 folder. Exit out of this one. And finally, we need to grab OptiScaler. So we're going to visit its GitHub page as well, download the latest version, and extract the three main files I'll show you again into the main game folder. As you can see, we are in the main GitHub page of OptiScaler. Again, on the right side, we see the releases and the +17 releases. We're going to click on that. And this is the one we need to download. I'm going to scroll down and download this 7-zip file over here. OptiScaler 077 Pre9 Daria. So now that we've downloaded the OptiScaler archive, we're gonna do something a little bit different. So if you double click on this, you can see there's a lot of different files and folders in here. So what I like to do is exit out of this, then right click on the OptiScaler archive, go to 7-zip or any other archiver or extracting tool that you like to use, like WinRAR, and then I will go with extract to OptiScaler 077 Pre9 Daria, which means it's going to create a folder that contains all these files and folders. So I'm going to do that. And as you can see, we have a lot of different files and folders in here, and it also contains kind of updated versions of the FSR and XeSS upscaler binaries. But since we have used DLSS swapper in a previous video, we have the actual latest version, so you can find this video up there, I believe. So yeah, let's grab these three files over here. So we need the OptiScaler setup.bat file, we need the OptiScaler.dll, and the OptiScaler.ini. So I'm gonna right click and copy these files, and then we're gonna go again into our main Win64 folder, and I'm gonna right click and paste. Let's go ahead and run the OptiScaler setup.bat file. And as you can see, we get a few options over here. So what I found that works really well with Oblivion Remastered is the option 3, which renames the DXGI DLL, which is the default, to version.dll. I'm gonna select 3 and then press enter. Then you're gonna get the question, are you using an NVIDIA or Intel GPU? I'm on an RX 6800 XT, which is an AMD GPU, so I'm gonna select 1. If you're on an NVIDIA GPU, obviously you have to select the second option, so you have to press 2. And then this is only for the AMD and Intel users. Will you try to use DLSS inputs? Enable spoofing required for DLSS FG, reflex for anti-lag 2 and all that good stuff. I'm gonna select the option 1, which is yes. If you're on an NVIDIA GPU, this will not appear. You will just see this screen that says press any key to continue. So we're gonna do exactly that. And as you can see, it has created an nvngx.dll file, and we have a new bat file, which is a remove OptiScaler bat. So if we run this, it will basically clear out all the files that OptiScaler has created. So this is a pretty important step as well. If you're on an AMD GPU or an older NVIDIA GPU, you need to run the disable NVIDIA signature checks .reg file. If we don't do this, then we will not have access to the DLSS options in the game. So let's double click on this. My screen is going to go black because I am screen capturing and it cannot capture the UAC, the user account control prompts, but you should just select yes to everything and it will just change a registry edit for your system. So let's do exactly that. I'm going to select yes, then yes again on this prompt if you're sure, and then I'm going to click OK. So we need to do one last tweak, and for this we're gonna open up the OptiScaler INI file over here. So the first thing we need to change is under this category over here which says Frame Gen, the FG type should be set to nukems. So nukems. If you're unsure of the spelling, you can find it over here and you can copy and paste it. Says nukems right there. And the second option we need to change is only for AMD and Intel users. If you're on an AMD GPU, you just click this save button and you're done. For AMD, we're gonna have to change another setting, which is the override NVAPI.dll file. So if we tap on our keyboard, Control and F, we're gonna have the search function of Notepad++ or any other text editor we're using. So we need to find the override NVAPI. And as you can see, we found the option we need. And instead of auto, we should set this to true. And remember, this is only for the AMD and Intel users. If you're an NVIDIA users, do not change this. Okay, so I'm gonna click on the save icon over here and then exit out of this text editor. So now let's go back into our MO2 installation over here and we're gonna run the game. So the game ran fine. If your game crashes over here, it means you didn't follow the instructions, especially when I instructed you guys to set the upscaler to off through the game menu. So yeah, if you're crashing, you did something wrong. Anyway, let's press any button to start. We're gonna get access to the menu here. So before you load your game, we're gonna go into the options, graphics, and we're gonna go down all the way to the upscaling technique. And as you can see, we have an extra option over here, right? DLSS is present, and as you can see, we have the DLSS modes under this. So set this to DLSS, okay, and then we're gonna press F to apply changes. You have to set it to DLSS and only DLSS, otherwise when you load the game will crash, and then next time you try to load Mod Organizer 2 Oblivion Remastered, it's going to immediately crash and you'll have to basically just uninstall OptiScaler, and all we just did just to run the game in vanilla mode and then follow the instructions. So be careful, you have to follow the instructions exactly, follow them to the T, otherwise you're gonna end up having a lot of issues. So what works best for an AMD or Intel GPU user? Depends on the power of the GPU. This is the DLSS mode, which you can change. This is DLAA. You can go to quality, balanced, performance, ultra performance. I'm gonna leave it for now to DLAA. We don't have to use any of the DLSS sharpness right now. And we do have frame generation. The other option is automatic. I would suggest you leave it on, just on and not automatic, because it's gonna try to use the DLSS for frame generation and it's probably gonna crash your game. So yeah, if we go a little bit further down, you can see that reflex is on, it's enabled, and then it says reflex plus boost. You can test the waters with this. I'm gonna go with just enabled, and I'm gonna press F over here to save my settings. Let's go do the same autosave over here. In the beginning, it might be a bit choppy because OptiScaler does change a few things, so it might need to rebuild a few of the shaders. So it could just try to rebuild some shaders for 10-15 seconds, but then again, it could take up to 2 to 3 minutes according to OptiScaler's developer. It depends really on your drive speed and your system's strength, I guess, like CPU and GPU combined. So this is what happens when you build shaders. If I press on the insert, you can see it is using the XeSS version over here. We do have DLSS-G and it says on, which means that our settings for frame generation do work. And you can see here it says we are running at 83 FPS. And basically, I would suggest if you do select XeSS to select the Model 6 over here and then save and close. And it looks really, really nice in my opinion, even with XeSS. Let's go into the Mages Guild just because there's going to be more light, I guess. So as you can see here, we're running at the native resolution, right? So everything looks clear either way. But if we go into our graphics settings, and let's say we want to use balanced, right? And then I'm gonna press F on my keyboard, that's to save the setting. You can see that the resolution went down and things are a bit blurrier, right? So before, if we selected XeSS, we didn't have access to sharpness, but now, let's say if I want to go crazy with sharpness, I can. Look at that. We do have access to sharpness. It doesn't look great, but it's a lot better than no sharpness at all. Obviously, you can play around with the sharpness amount. Let's say you want to go with 50. You can also do that. See the difference over here, but obviously because we're running balanced on a 1080p monitor, it's gonna look kind of blocky over there. And if we just go even more crazy and say ultra performance, yes, we are at around 190 to 200 FPS over here, but yeah, things are starting to look kind of murky, especially if we go with no sharpness. As you can see, this is starting to look kind of weird. So we would benefit a lot if we added some sharpness, which we didn't have the ability to do before. So let's do the crazy thing and add the 100 sharpness. It does look blocky, as you can see, especially around the hair and stuff. But yeah, we do have access to that option. So let's go back to, let's say, no sharpness and DLAA. We're still at around 100 FPS indoors, obviously. And then we can try the better upscaler, in my opinion, which is FSR 3. If I press on apply over here, you can see we are running FSR 314 upscaler, and we're gonna save. It does look better, in my opinion, than XeSS in this game. And what I really like to do is press insert again, and I really like to disable the FSR input values, and we're gonna be using basically the DLSS input values, which are in many cases better. Not in all cases, but in a lot of games, this is better. And the ghosting is either a lot less or non-existent, especially with the FSR implementation. And we could try going outside. Especially at night, the residual image was a lot worse without the FSR pushed through OptiScaler and its default inputs. So I'm pretty happy with the result. And obviously, we could just go with quality, for example. And if we found that it gets a little bit blurry, we could go with sharpness. Just to make it a lot more prominent, let's go with 100% sharpness. And as you can see, yeah, it looks kind of weird because it's over sharpening. You don't need 100 sharpness all the time. But yeah, these are things that are possible right now. Try not to get arrested over there. So yeah, as you can see, this works perfectly fine, and we have access to all the options that we'll ever need, and we can even go further. And if we press insert, you can see we have access to other versions of FSR. So usually how I run my game is 314, and I untick the use FSR input values and then save. And as you can see, latency is pretty good. We are using the latency flex mode. Force reflex, it's only following the in-game basically option we have selected. So these are the OptiScaler options, and these are my main game graphics options over here with the 6800 XT. We could go with VSync as well. It will not break your game, I think, or any of the options. Everything stays on, as you can see over here. DLSS Frame Generation. If you have any issues with basically the game introducing tearing on your screen and stuff, I find it that sometimes it makes the game image look more stable. But yeah, just try it out. Try the best options for you guys and let me know how it goes. So basically, we do have access to all of the upscalers that are available for our GPU, of course. And even if you are on a 4000 series or newer NVIDIA or a 9000 series AMD GPU, OptiScaler, as I mentioned before, also gives you access to DLSS-4 and FSR4. So that's a big plus, especially if the game hasn't been whitelisted by NVIDIA and AMD respectively. That's it, guys and gals. You've just unlocked next level performance for Oblivion Remastered. Links to OptiScaler, FakeNVAPI, and DLSS-to-FSR are in the description. You know where. If this guide helped you, smash that like button, subscribe, and click on that bell for more geeky tutorials. And let me know in the comments which upscaler you're rocking. Which one do you prefer? Stay geeky, and I'll see you in the next adventure, guys. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.